Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Robert T. Green. I'm the CEO of Pre-Post Game. Welcome to the African American Athlete podcast presented by Pre-Post Game, sponsored by the African American Athlete, hosted by Ricky Hampton and Mr. Michael Robinson. I apologize for running a little late again. Today is Wednesday, May the 23rd. We're talking about the new NFL anthem policy. We're talking about the NCAA remains the funniest show in town. We're talking about coaches' contracts being guaranteed and how that affects the actual direction of the players and how things have yet to change, and you understand why. We're talking about the NFLPA and why at this point that things can remain the same, and as this new policy is taking place, a statement comes out after the fact saying that the NFL chose not to include the NFLPA regarding the player situation. So with that being said, if you think about it, collective bargaining agreement was redone in 2011. During that time, once upon a time, former Players Rep Union was Gene Upshaw. He passed away, former Oakland Raider, and now they led by a man named DeMaurice Smith. In my opinion, it hasn't gone well, and it continues not to go well. But you're talking about business, you're talking about understanding leverage and understanding your worth and your value. Put this in perspective, you have 32 NFL owners and approximately 1,900 NFL players. Because you have 1,900 NFL players, you break down the math. I'm talking about legal revenue sharing. As it changed, is now the NFL owners get about 52% of the pie, where the players get 47%. With that being said, we break the numbers down, the math down, 32 and 1,900. That means the players are getting 1.68% of the revenue for taking all the physical risk. They also are signing contracts and documents that are being derived and written by agencies. As all these continue to happen against the players, and where the representation, where's the agents, where are the coaches, where all these people that so-called care about these athletes from the time they were so little until the time where they're at now, about their rights, about their opportunities. I said earlier, I'm not upset about the NFL rule. I'm more upset about the people that think changing the rule and putting a 15-yard penalty and fine is supposed to be more important to players than someone being killed unjustly. And because if they believe that, they're the part of the problem, that money and a little bit of money and a fine, they're supposed to actually care more about that than the death of someone that's innocent, and particularly a minority. Secondarily speaking, you can continue to wonder and ask why those same people continue to support the game. Is it they support the game because they love the game, or they got some other type of vested interest, such as gambling, such as rooting for their home team? Could they care less if the player was different today or tomorrow? I think some of us know the answer to that question already, but at the same time, as a player who tends to try to appease those that support them, you can't really win. The fact of the matter is I played sports for up to the age of 30, and I'm going to be frank and honest. I have one coach that happened to help raise me, if you will, happened to be a Caucasian man named Joe Vito. He is the only one that at this point in my career calls me. As a matter of fact, as every team that I played for, from high school, collegiate, and pro, after I'm no longer playing with those coaches, I don't get any phone calls to ask how I'm doing. I don't get any type of saying, are you all right, and how great of a player you were for me. But at the same time, you're not going to have any of these coaches from these big-time programs, college or pros or high school, sending letters saying, hey, Nick Saban should send a letter to all of those guys from last year's championship team saying, thank you guys, helped me make $11 million last year. All those guys aren't in the National Football League. Most of those guys don't have a six-figure salary job right now, or a seven-figure salary job. A lot of those guys are right back to where they started. That's why I said, again, NCAA is the biggest joke in town. They posted something on their website on Twitter saying that for the 13th year in a row, their grade point average has moved up from Division I athletes. Names, please. Sports, please. But again, the funny part about it is it was posted 6 hours ago, and you don't have one like or one comment in that because it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And again, as they go through their ability to continue to try to fight to keep kids from basically being able to sign contracts without knowing what's in it, having it one-sided, violating things such as child labor law. And again, it's unfortunate and sad to me that I had a post I did yesterday, and I had a fan basically say that the reason why it's okay for a kid not to be able to transfer because it's an SEC rule, and as Nick said, me and Nick Saban, that it would be like free agency in college. Nick don't want kids to transfer to other schools in SEC, but correct me if I'm wrong. Did Nick Saban coach at LSU? Is he still in SEC? Correct me if I'm wrong. Did Nick Saban's assistants coach at Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia? So once again, Nick Saban is 5'6". He never wore a helmet. He never put anything on the line like these young men have. He's been coaching since 1973. He was since Alabama since 2007. He's produced 3 kids that produced a top 5 pick. Never #1 quarterback in a quarterback-driven league. So it saddens me that parents that sometimes become fans overnight, or more of a fan than actually what goes on when it comes to these kids. You cannot in 2018 sign a contract or agreement without understanding what is read and what goes into it. It don't matter what conference you're in, no matter what coach. Again, half the people that's talking about Alabama's national championships, again, that's great. That doesn't pay any of these kids' bills. That don't heal any of their injuries. So once again, you talk about guys such as Minkah Fitzpatrick, who was a top 11 pick last year. Alabama didn't pay for his insurance policy, but they sure did pay a couple coaches a $1 million bonus. Why? Because they're kids? Once again, this is how the NCAA and the high school and the AAU leads to what we have in the NFL right now. It's all said and done. Same way. So once again, when you have kids and parents not understanding the game that they play, and for those that have the biggest proponent by saying that, why are these rich millionaires complaining or protesting when they making millions of dollars? Because the people who don't have millions of dollars don't have a voice. It's why I'm here. Because those players that actually trying to have a voice, they may not be as educated or can articulate their actual issues and needs the way they should, because the people that they had around them for the last 15 years only utilized them to make money for themselves. That don't benefit the actual athlete. Again, to recap, my name is Robert T. Green. I'm the CEO of a company called Pre-Post Game. I'm also known as the Players Rep. You can hashtag the Players Rep. I'm here to educate and empower, protect the athlete and family's best interests alone. Check out Ricky Hand and Michael Robinson on Tuesday nights on the African American Athlete Talk Show from 10 to 11 Eastern Standard Time, where they cover African American history, sports, current, past, and actually, to the future. So again, what we're trying to do again is help people understand really where you're at right now. The times of complaining or talking about certain things, and again, this to not cross over too much, but you still hear things about when things aren't right, you want to protest or boycott. Again, those things were going on in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and they were very effective then. It's no different in the Second Amendment when we're talking about guns, and then now what the guns was to now. Right now in this country, in the world we live in now, it's about economics. It's about information. Information is power. The more you know, the more position you will be to be beneficial to yourself. Most people, regardless of color in this country, don't really care about your skin color. They care about the color green. And if you actually know how to get that green and maintain that green, you're going to be in a position of power. You're going to be in a position of change. So once again, the rhetoric going back and forth for the millionth time. I'm in the sports business as the Players Rep. You will never hear me entertain or get into a conversation who's better versus Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. Why? Michael won 6 championships. LeBron won championships. He lost. He plays the sport. LeBron helps to help a lot of people in the community and do things for the kids. Once again, if my mind capacities only can go but so far as saying, like, why did Kevin Durant, who was already a millionaire, go and take his talents to Golden State? If you can do that for 4 months, then you should ask yourself why, as your highly rated athletes, we continue to let kids get numbers put on their back, and then you spend 6 months to 3 years being recruited, ran around, told you how wonderful you are, and then you sign a contract that you can't read or don't understand. So again, that's just the topic of it. But again, going back to the anthem and my thought process on it, I don't have any problem with the rule. What I try to explain to people again is that the NFL, like any other corporate entity, is a business. The NFL players are also a business. They got into an agreement and a contract with their actual players union, which I have a problem with, because once again, a lot of things are being done or written up or done without the actual best interest of the players that's coming up in the future. The young men that are 2018 draft class, 2019 and 20, decisions are being made for them without them even knowing what's going on, and that continues to be a problem. People are not talking about it now, but as this new anthem takes place, there's a potential lockout. The CBA ends in 2021. So once again, you're really talking about making change and having a better opportunity for yourself. First things first, hey, who generates all the revenue? The players. So one, DeMaurice Smith, why are the owners making 52% and the players making 47%? As I said earlier in my monologue, there's 1,900 players and there's 32 owners. Secondarily speaking, for those that want to argue and say that anybody can play sports and play pro in the NFL, you're sadly mistaken. As the country is now, set it up where the states have the right to decide that they want to bet on legalized gambling. No one is betting on someone who can't do the things that these young men do out on the field on Sundays. Again, taking all the risk and then the reward. All the players in the NFL, all 1,900 of them, do not make millions of dollars. As a matter of fact, the majority of them make hundreds of thousands, if that, before taxes. But based off the system with people that basically having them sign contracts and agreements 5 months in advance, by the time they finish paying this one and that one and this one, without knowing what they're paying them for, they broke. And they right back to where they started. And that free education that everybody keep talking about hasn't kicked in. Like I said again, this is the African American Athlete Radio show. 42,000 people follow this page and like this page. I challenge anyone to find anyone to say, hey, I went to school for 3 to 4 years as an athlete. I majored in this, what I wanted to major in, and now today, because of that actual education, I'm making 6 figures. If you can do that, then I got a position for you for my company, because you are the one. So the reality is that us as athletes, and again, I say us because again, I was once a former athlete, which put me in this situation to become who I am, to advocate for the guys and the families. But you can't sit back and continue to complain about what's going on when literally, like I said, even with the new social justice program, when the NFL apparently committed $90 million towards this, with even a new rule with the helmet rules. People don't understand. The new helmet rule is only going to create more fines for the actual athletes. So the NFL has the breast cancer awareness, they have the military appreciation, and now they're going to do social justice stuff. What people don't realize is that a lot of that money that comes from fines go right back into what the NFL say they're giving you. So that's the point. In the NBA, I believe the fines from last year was $3 million. The NFL over the last 3 years is approximately $70 million in a sport that's physical. You talk about how in hockey you can drop the sticks, you can have no helmet on, you can fight, you can be in skates, you can swing your stick, you can check, you can run into the wall and the glass. And then men with helmets on, again, if anybody ever played or watched hockey, and I played arena football, by the way, so that's a whole nother topic, because if anybody thinks that NFL is more violent than arena, has never been to a game. Never, ever been to a game. We play with walls, we play in a condensed area, we play on top of ice, and we play sometimes where you go over that wall, it's concrete there, and there's not been one person that said, you know what, it's about player safety. In the arena, the fullbacks are nimble, quick feet, about 300 pounds. When you get inside the 5-yard line, it's a car crash, about 22 people. We all run into each other. We get up and do it again. So once again, this is all about business. This is all about preventing lawsuits. This is all about saying, if I say player safety, I can get some type of initiative. I can do the 501c3. Matter of fact, again, for those who don't know, the NFL was not for profit until 2014. But yet again, you're talking about players, 1,900 of them, that again might not have long-term health care and benefits, but you're a commissioner who never played football, can make $50 million a year and have insurance for his entire family. So once again, it don't start at the end, it starts at the beginning. So it not only starts at the beginning when it comes to the athletic piece, it starts in the beginning from the actual mental aspect. When a coach comes up to you and he's wearing some type of uniform for some type of school, you got to understand, you're the reason why that man has a job. So he's going to tell you whatever you want to hear, not what you need to know. And if you're willing to accept whatever he tells you just because it makes you feel good about yourself, that's where we start putting these kids in a bad situation right from day one. What's your long-term plan, coach? What does recruiting trip mean? When he goes to your school, what are he going to do? He's not going to tell you that, hey, we got girls that's going to do things to coerce him. We're not going to tell you if he drinks underage, that's okay. We're not going to look at him. We're not going to tell you if he get high, help him make a decision to come here, then it's going to be all right. We're not going to tell you. And that's the problem. As an African-American athlete, a former African-American athlete, that is one of the things in this country that we actually have a great grasp on. In particular, basketball, football, the highest generated revenue sports, rivaling soccer. The reality is knowing that if you're a highly rated kid, let's just say basketball, at 6'7" in 9th grade, the chances of you making a pro is pretty good. But you know who knows that? Everybody's around you in a circle. Sometimes your family. Now everybody wants to position themselves as your circle of influence to now dictate to you how you think and how you move. When at the same time, you have things called the CBA, collective bargaining agreement. And that's the point. And so when you talk about the coaches that are literally going to make decisions to help you make decisions, you got to understand, why is this coach wanting me to do this? Why am I going there? What's the benefit for them? You have to learn how to audit, vet, and monitor the people that you keep around your children. Sometimes you need to do that to yourself. Am I actually pushing my kid into a situation because I'm a fan of the school? For the fan that said that the kid who from Alabama shouldn't be able to transfer, because again, maybe that kid figured out that Alabama doesn't have a great history of O-linemen getting drafted in the NFL. They only had 2 last year total. And that one was in the 6th round. If fact of the matter is, you talk about Alabama and college versus pros is two different things. But when you recruit this kid to come to Alabama, you pushing pros every day, all day. You're not pushing that education. Here we are again another week on the African American Radio Talk Show, pre-post game podcast. And I'm still waiting to find out which Alabama athlete, student athlete, is walking around with his degree in a free education and basically saying, hey, Nick Saban is the best person in the world. He helped me learn this, learn this, learn that. I know one guy right now is still fighting the case, Reuben Foster, who was just drafted, who again literally should have been a top 5 pick, but had issues with drugs and guns. Or we can go back to the Ohio States of the world, when Ezekiel Elliott said he was drunk and high in college all the time. When you start holding those coaches and those schools accountable, you can expect a better product from the professional level in the NFL, from the men, from the coaches, from everybody around. But make no mistake about it, this sports is a game, not a game. It's all business. You are a professional athlete the moment someone recognizes you can play and they're willing to pay to watch you do it. That's it. That's it. But the problem is, in the sports profession, you have a life expectancy on your body. So you can't sit back and say, you know what, I'm going to play this sport and I'm going to turn around and do this when I get done. You no longer have value. No longer have value. Exactly. Nick Saban, the highest paid in the state of Alabama. That should let you know the state of Alabama's circumstances right now. What else they got going on? What else can they do? And if that's the case, then, well, again, look at the athletes. Look at the athletes. He gets really defensive when you talk about how he uses these kids up so bad that when they get to the NFL, they fall apart. Mentally, physically, and emotionally. Trust the facts, people, not the process. You want to sing, and I said this the other day, if this continues and they talk about social media and technology, and the fact of the matter is, if you're a quarterback, only one quarterback plays at a time. So when a young man decided to go to Princeton instead of Alabama, when a young man decided to go to Grambling State instead of Alabama, when Jalen Hurts is about to leave Alabama if you don't make the spot, and then when the guy Tua said if he didn't play or didn't start, he was going to leave. Everybody jump up and down. Nick Saban ain't going in and telling these kids that, hey, you come here, you're going to sit there and hold a clipboard and help me get another bonus check, a championship. This is business. And for those people that keep jumping down on the backs of these kids, man, that's ridiculous. When you go to work every day, you perform a job, and you get compensated for your job. Nobody's giving you a free scholarship if you want to talk about free education, because you can't do what they do. At the end of the day, the return of their investment should be worth it. There's kids right now going to Division I schools, and I'm not really feeling like using that name right now, but let me tell you, there's a class out there called a massage class. So I'm sorry, a meditating class. It's so funny, you can go to sleep in that class, but your requirement is if you go to sleep, you have to wake up and tell everybody what you dreamt about. This is from a Power 5 school. Power 5. There's a young man from another school that is graduated with American norms. That's what he got his degree in. Another guy, I believe he had a fifth year senior that just graduated. It was something like studies, like general studies. You can't do anything with that. There are people every day that go to work and go to school that got six-figure loans they can never pay back. They got better degrees than that. But you expect these athletes to be able to transition into the real world. And then you want to say to them, oh, what a shame. The reason why I got into this actual business, once again, is because I understand the level of what goes into this. The fact of the matter is, sports, and particularly these athletes, are the reason why I, the players rep, have a company called Pre-Post Game. They're the reason why a guy like Stephen A. Smith can talk about something he can never do and make $3 million a year and write about it. The athletes are the reason why they can create billion-dollar construction sites for vending and for traffic and parking and for everything that goes along with that. They're the reason why people who don't know nothing about football can make billions, because they found out a way to give them a penny to get back $1. That's why. So athletes are not just productive and not just responsible for what they do on the field. They are responsible for a huge part of society and the economy. Every person that owns a sports bar right now that goes to a club on a Friday or Saturday night to watch a tournament, to watch a regular game or a regular season game, those cheesy fries aren't that good. They're going there to watch that TV, to watch that athlete play. And it's so bad that, you know, when you, as a man, when you go into a urinal, you got a TV sitting over your stall. That's how fanatic these people are. That's leverage. But you only have that leverage a short amount of time. And you don't have time to sit back and wait for somebody else to tell you how to go about doing it. If you're not willing to build on your own career and legacy, you'll be working and building somebody else's. How you doing, Coach Scott? Good to see you, man. I hope all is well with you. Like I said, always a pleasure to see you here at the African American Athlete Radio Talk Show. Coach Scott, NBA Coach of the Year, obviously for the Detroit Pistons. And again, hopefully I get to meet him one day. I got to speak to you one time, and it's an honor and a pleasure. And a pioneer for guys like me to end up and try to recognize, like, you know what? All these pioneers in the past that put their lives and their careers on the line to make something happen, and yet turn around for people today that can turn around and keep pushing these guys back from where we started. You can make a lot of money, that's fine, but if you don't know how to maintain that money and actually make it work for you, then it was a sense of getting it. It's the same thing over and over and over again. You got guys that got drafted in the NFL just a couple weeks ago and already ready to invest in stocks and mutual bonds. They haven't even finished their degree. They don't even know what that is. But it's a financial advisor out there that paid some NFL certification to get in front of a kid at a Senior Bowl and take a picture with somebody at a club and say, that's my guy. How you doing, Mr. Green? How you doing, sir? Mr. Green is a legend at Ohio State University, and also another pioneer. And then, it's, again, guys like that paved the way for young men to this day that they don't even know. I had a young athlete tell me one time he wants to be in the NFL, and I mean NFL Hall of Fame, and I asked him, well, who do you know in the Hall of Fame that plays your position? He said he don't know. This is how bad it's gotten now in the sports business. The fact of the matter is the guys, the pioneers, and my heart hurts for them because at the end of the day, those guys go out there every year in Cleveland in that hot sun and those gold jackets for all that they built up. But yet, at the end of the day, a lot of these men can't even get the money they deserve to pay for their concussions, to pay for their medical bills, whatever. But yet, people come out there once in a while to see them. So you put this bust in this actual arena, in this place right here, but yet these people need help. And all the money that's being generated right now, you don't know what to do. But you give them a day or two so you can begin to sell more tickets and go after them and act like you're doing something for them. Sports is not a game. Sports is all business. And again, if the NFL wanted really, or any other entity in sports really want to help these younger kids, they will have people like Mr. Scott. They will have people like Mr. Green who came through this way to build to what it is. But you know what? That's the thing about sports today. They don't want no independent thinkers. They want zombies. They want you to assembly line so your body can't do it anymore, on to the next. And for those that, again, that aren't on the players union and things like that, those guys are bought in to stay around. Do you know how many people in this actual industry continue to look back at what they did and don't actually tell what happened and don't actually tell these kids? If you ask Lawrence Taylor or Eric Dickerson, two NFL greats about the NFL, how they feel about it, they'll tell you. Not the game, not the teammates, not the camaraderie. That's the point. They ain't gonna tell you that. But what they tell you is that, how the NFL is about protecting the shield. But you want to protect the shield, but again, you talk about the fines, new helmet rule. Why are you putting that helmet rule in? What is that going to do? How is it going to help the players? How are you helping players that guys that don't have full guaranteed contracts? How are guys that don't have medical health care? How is it helping them to fine them every time they step on the field? How is it that you as an employer continue to think that you change the rules every day of the week is going to help make the game better and make the game safer? Welcome, Dr. Pay. I appreciate you being on here. Again, I'm trying to educate myself, so again, I appreciate you being on and tuning in. It's a recap. My name is Robert G. Green. I'm the CEO of Pre-Post Game, Sports Advisement, Management, Transition, Succession Planning for Athletes. I'm also known as a players rep here to educate and empower, protect the athletes and the family's best interests alone. Today's May the 23rd on the African American Athlete Talk Show presented by Pre-Post Game. And we're talking about, like I said, the new anthem policy and what goes on in sports at every level. And one of the things I continue to try to stress is that from the AAU circuit and the showcase circuit now with these athletes, they put numbers on these kids' backs, and that's when I talk about the term sports trafficking. When you're not really making a decision on your own, it's not independent of free thinking of what's going on. You are actually pushed a certain way for the monetary value of someone else. And you smile and you feel happy about it, you feel good about it. Like I said, for 7 months to 3 years, that once you actually get to that point and they say, hey, sign an NLI. Any parent today that kid is being recruited, you can call the NCAA right now and ask them, what is the national letter of intent do for me? How does it benefit for me? I can promise you they won't have a response because it doesn't benefit you. we strongly advise parents not to sign a national letter of intent. But for kids that want to get the process over with, for kids that want to actually not be recruited or not be talked about anymore, what you have this now done, you just given the NCAA and the actual university the right to not even say your name anymore. You give them the right to actually say that you cannot speak to anyone anymore. Even if that coach that recruited you told you he loved you, now used your signing to actually take a job somewhere else. You are now under contract with them. That's why it's not about free education. Because if it's school, you're not even enrolled yet, but now you can't go anywhere. But you're so interested in signing something because everybody else did it, you end up stuck. Then after the fact, we want to complain. Makes no sense. Absolutely, Mr. Butler, is not free. And for those athletes that actually suffer injuries and during their careers, and again, every other week I got something going on with my shoulder and my knee, but again, I accepted that when I went into this business as a player. Because once again, when I talk about education, coaches, the doctors, I don't know how many times I was told that, you all right? I signed the physical waiver, like I'm good. They didn't even ask me if I was all right. Wasn't interested. No, as a football player in particular, talking about trauma and head injuries, I played 9 years in arena football. I played it collegiately speaking. So I like to think, again, that, you can say CTE, but there's a lot of guys that played in arena football that have a lot of collisions. And over 600 tackles as a pro. The fact of the matter is, what I really believe is that if you never use your mind, if you don't know who you are as an athlete, you can never become more than an athlete. Then your actual self-being and self-worth is dictated upon what somebody else feels or think about you. That is very disabling. That is traumatizing. That is debilitating. And that also puts you in a situation where you don't want to be around anymore. Then you become depressed and you become angry. Sports is not a game. Sports is all business. And for where we at right now, where you can go to a tournament in high school and pay $20 and have it be in Texas and go a football game in Katy where they have $60 and $70 million stadiums, but yet you still saying from a college level you can't pay these players. All these kids that are going to these high schools in Texas, we only know about 2 or 3 of them are going pro potentially, much less college. But you're not giving the money to the parents that literally live in a shack somewhere in the middle of nowhere. You're quick to go take your truck and pick them up and bring them there and give them a meal or a shoe, but you won't give them nothing when it comes to a monetary value like money, because you're making that money to get them there. That's the most difficult part about this actual business. That's the most difficult part about this world. No different than cops and anything else. Oh, it's good cops out there. Not all cops are bad. Well, until good cops start putting out the bad cops, it's the same thing. There are good coaches out there. There are good agents out there. But the way this business is set up, the bad ones outweigh the good because they're willing to do whatever, however, to take advantage of these actual kids. And most good people are not going to be bothered with the garbage that go into sports. That's why my business model is set up the way it is, because at the end of the day, if I sit back and wait to try to address a parent and a 19-year-old kid that's potentially going to the pros in basketball, football, baseball, whatever, it's over. People don't have their hands all in them and through them and around them. They done sold him to the highest bidder. He don't even know he's been sold. Perfect case right now. There's a lot of kids right now, a lot of coaches right now, quote-unquote recruiting. Again, it's about education, but you're literally telling the families that I'm on the road looking for somebody to replace your son or your daughter. And in the meantime, the ones that are back on campus, the agents are back there doing whatever they want to do because you're not around. But that agent represents you, coach, and you know he's there. And so does the NCAA. You know who doesn't know? The mom, dad, the person that actually believes that this kid's been transitioned to somewhere where they can actually be trusted, where they be looked out for.
Well, had I known we were going to sit outside.
Sports is not a game. Sports is all business. It continues to bother me to see that young men that have all the access in the world through technology, through social media, through things that many people, like when we grew up, did not have. Yet they don't utilize it because they're not basically asked to. They don't think about it. If you ask a kid right now, again, any TV show, ask a kid what he did. You kids in college, call them and ask them how class was today. So ask them what they learned. The same thing when you talk about sports, you talk about the military, all hand in hand. Your body and your mind. If you're willing to do things without asking questions, no matter what the results may be, in the beginning, under contract, after the fact, when you're no longer their preferred option, you are going to find out a harsh reality in the United States of America. We got to get away from that. Information is power. Knowledge is power. You want to go to a certain school? Figure it out. Why do you want to go to that school? How's that location for you? What's their graduation rate? If you tell me I can actually graduate in this, this is what it is. If you recruit me and say I can have my own room, we have attorneys that will say, hey, coach such and such, you promised this kid he will have his room. If you stand on your words, write it down and sign it. Here is an actual, what's that guy? What's the person's name? At the bank. I can lose my mind right now. But verified it. So at the end of the day, it's a contract. It's a two-way street. But the problem is people hear about free scholarship and free education, don't even know what it consists of. There are schools out there that forces kids to leave their actual dorms after a certain year. But you told their parents, everything is free. Because once you tell them that, they sign a contract. There's no other resources that sit there trying to help them understand what's going on. Have a great day, Mr. Hampton. I appreciate you. Check out Mr. Hampton and Mr. Robinson every Tuesday night on AfricanAmericanAthlete.com. So, my take again, in any entity, any sports business, it is your right as an owner, it's your right as a company to do things you want to do from a workplace environment. I believe we got to this point today regarding the so-called compromise of allowing players to stay inside if they don't want to come out, or if they come out, they are required to stand. Or stand in a certain. The only issue I have with that is telling them to stand in a certain area. Because once again, it goes back to you can respect someone and you cannot. These are adults. These are grown men. And once again, some of these leagues and entities, based off their titles that they've been given and the power they've been given by the athlete and by the parent, because no one else gives it to them. You can ask any kid that play with it. Coaches coach character. Coaches coach effort sometimes. Coaches don't coach skill. If you look at any roster in college and the pros, and the fact of the matter, the numbers don't lie. If there's 10 coaches in the NCAA on a football roster, only 4 of them play the sport. That's usually the quarterback's coach, the DB coach, the running back coach, and sometimes the secondary coach. And the majority of those are African American. The other 6 got a job, they're related to someone, they knew someone, they worked their way up as a water boy, and that's that. They're not teaching you how to backpedal and drive. They're not teaching you how to come off that line of scrimmage and dip and rip. That's why so many of these kids now, that's even in college, during the offseason, go to specialized training because the coach that recruited them, when he found out he get to practice, all he says is, good job, boy, good job, way to go. But you told him you're going to help him get to the National Football League. Only to when he gets to the point where he's about to leave, you have the NFL scouts say he's terrible. But that ain't stopped you from cashing your check the last 3 years. Sports is not a game. Sports is all business. NFL, new policy, anthem policy, new helmet, new rules when it comes to the helmets. Again, I say this now, and I'm putting it on record. This will be a huge year for fines for the actual athletes, because once again, like anything new, it's going to happen. Any athletes that are parents and athletes that are looking about making decisions of possibly going to apply for the NFL draft next year, it's a possible lockout in 2021. So you should keep that in mind when you're making your decision. Regardless of what any agent tells you, regardless of what anybody in the school tells you, I'm letting you know that's a fact. So if you're an athlete that's currently in the National Football League right now, save your money. Do not make unnecessary investments on people and things you don't understand. Sports is a short-lived career. So hopefully, again, my job, my goal, my opportunity is, hey, hopefully my checks and balances, and I teach every athlete and every family to understand this. When you talk to someone, and this applies to business principles in life as well, 3 things you should know. 1, when they speaking to me, did they educate me on something that I didn't know before? 2, empowerment. Did they teach me something that I didn't know before that can help me better myself? And the last thing is protection. If they're not doing those 3 things, I'm not listening to them, and neither should you. That's how you protect yourself in the sports business. That's how you protect yourself in life. Again, my name is Robert T. Green. I'm the CEO of Pre-Postgame. Check us out at prepostgame.com. Spread the word. Follow us at the Players Rep 1 on Twitter, on Instagram. Look forward to talking to you guys next week. God bless you. Have a great day.